Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to Mafasa's Daily Book Reading. And I am your girl, Julia, reading for you today. And as we read before, we are still continuing with our book, The Third Alternative by Steve Covey. And yes, we're still in chapter 2. We are on our last segment today, so I'm really excited about that. And so this segment is the process of synergy. So yes, let's get right into the reading. Okay, the process of synergy. After the lack of a proper mindset, the second obstacle to synergy is a lack of skill. Synergy is a process that gets the third alternative, and you need to know how that process works. Up to now, I've been talking about the essential character of a synergistic person and have examined the paradigms that make up the third alternative thinking. From here on, I'll talk about the skill of a synergistic person. Children practice synergy naturally. We are born with the paradigm of creation. A friend tells me he watched his two boys and their friends build a whole city out of a couple of food boxes. Some windfall cherries, these were used as people. A pile of rocks, a banana peel, this was the king's palace. They told each other an elaborate story about this great civilization, inventing it as they went along. They introduced politics, wars, economics, love, jealousy, and passion into their story. Children are natural world makers. As we grow up and specialize through school and work, we often mislay the skills we once used to create worlds. But those skills are never lost. Sometimes people surprise themselves when they arrive at the third alternative out of necessity. A crisis can force the third alternative thinking, as in the events surrounding the accident on Apollo 13, the ill-fated April 1970 mission to the moon. After an explosion on board, the three astronauts found themselves slowly asphyxiating inside the crippled spaceship because of carbon dioxide built up from their own lungs. Loss of electrical power forced the astronauts to move from the command module of the ship into the lunar landing module, which was not designed to support 3 breathing human beings. The carbon dioxide filters gradually depleted, and that meant slow death. There were plenty of fresh cube-shaped filters available in the command module, but they were incompatible with the lunar module system, which required cylinder-shaped filters. It was the classic second alternative problem of fitting a square peg into a round hole. Failure is not an option, vowed Gene Kranz, the mission director on the ground. A third alternative had to be found. So, from materials available to the astronauts, plastic wrap, duct tape, cardboard, and rubber hoses, the technicians on the ground rapidly constructed a mailbox-like contraption that would connect the mismatched filters. The specs for this makeshift solution were radioed to the astronauts. They built it and it worked. In this case, the third alternative originated under the pressure of a life and death situation, which is of course extreme, but we can learn from the synergizing done by Apollo mission team. We learned that the third alternatives can come quickly. We also learned that we can create third alternative out of the resources we have. We don't always need more or different resources. We learn once again that most dilemmas are false dilemmas. Most of all, we learn that people profoundly committed to one another can achieve miraculous synergies. We've seen that sometimes crisis forces synergy, but I don't need a crisis to get synergy. If I start with the right mindset, I can get to synergy on purpose by following 4 steps. 4 steps in synergy. Number 1, I ask you, are you willing to go for a solution that is better than any of us have come up with yet? That this one revolutionary question can disarm defensiveness, because I am not asking you to give up your idea. Not at all. I'm simply asking if we can look at the third alternative that is better than my idea or your idea. It begins as a thought experiment, nothing more. Number 2, then I ask you something like this: what would better look like? The idea is to come up with a clear vision of the job to be done, a list of criteria for a successful outcome that would delight us both, criteria that move beyond our entrenched demands. Number 3, once the criteria are up on the wall, we start experimenting with possible solutions that will meet the criteria. We create prototypes, we brainstorm new frameworks, we turn our thinking upside down, we suspend judgment for that time. Later, I'll describe several ways of doing this. But all synergy depends on allowing ourselves to experiment with radical possibilities. Number 4, we know when we've arrived at synergy by the excitement in the room. The hesitation and conflict are gone. We keep working at it until we experience the burst of creative dynamism that represent a successful third alternative. And we recognize it when we see it. There are many experts in conflict resolution, but for most of them, conflict resolution usually means negotiating a low accommodation that stops the fight without necessarily breaking through to amazing new results. The third alternative is more than an armistice and far more than a one hand or the other hand. Neither the first place nor the second place, a third place. Let's go a little more deeply into these steps to synergy play out in real life. Step 1, ask the third alternative question. The first step in the synergy process is to ask the third alternative question. Are you willing to go for a solution that is better than one of us has in mind? This question changes everything. If the answer is yes, suddenly there's no need for negotiation, which only lures us toward compromise. If the answer is yes, the tension goes out of the conflict. In a low trust situation, the yes might be very hesitant, even grudging, but it's the first step away from the hardened position towards the promising solution. Asking this question sincerely requires to retrain my own thinking. I must no longer see myself as an objective, a right-thinking source of all wisdom. I must think within the paradigms of mutual respect and valuing the differences. I must, as we have seen, understand the paradoxical principle that two people can describe and both be at the right and be right at the same time. Further, I must see myself as more than just a representative of a side. I am more than my grievances, my position, my ideology, my team, my company, or my party. I am not a victim of the past. I am a whole person, a unique individual capable of shaping my own destiny. I am a whole person. I can choose a different future. I must also be willing to suspend my own preconceived notions of a solution. Note that I said I be willing to. I must be open to possibilities I never thought of. I must be ready to go where the process takes me because synergy is by nature unpredictable. That is today's reading. I hope you really enjoyed. What really stood out for me is the fact that we saw in the astronauts predicament that they had to come up with a third alternative. And in this, it just shows that in whatever situation, the third alternative is always there, is the fact that we just don't want to apply our minds, or rather we limit ourselves because of thinking that we are always right. So you don't have to wait for a death or life situation to come up with a third alternative. Just change your own mindset. It just makes me think of this scripture that I know of in Proverbs 23, verse 7. It states that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So in me thinking that there is always a better way of solving problems, not just me being selfish, but in me applying my mind, and even in situation, it can make me to be a better person. With that being said, happy Monday. I hope you enjoyed today's reading. I'll see you on Wednesday. You can catch this video on YouTube, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.